The Gorge is a new sci-fi action thriller romance that's now streaming on Apple TV+. And this film stars Miles Teller and it stars Anya Taylor-Joy, and the setup and the premise is pretty interesting here. So you have two highly trained, war-weary individuals played by Miles Teller and Anya Taylor-Joy. They get assigned to posts in these guard towers on opposite sides of this very big and secret and highly classified gorge. It is their job to protect the world from whatever mysterious evil is lying inside this gorge. And over the course of the movie, feelings get involved, and now they have to kind of work together to protect the secrets of the gorge while also discovering what the damn secrets of the gorge actually are. This one came out this past weekend over Valentine's Day. Sorry it's a few days late, let's get into it. Getting the obvious out of the way early, I think the premise and the setup for this movie is really intriguing. Because the premise is you have these two military people who clearly have their own baggage and stuff that the movie does delve into, but their primary job is them sitting in these towers overlooking this gorge, and your mind the entire time is like, what the fuck is the deal with this gorge? What's in this gorge? What are these creatures that everyone's so scared about? What are they trying to protect the world from? What are the secrets of it? Like, your mind just kind of goes crazy with the possibilities, and having these two people just sitting there guarding it the whole time, like, that's pretty interesting to me. Immediately your mind tinges with a lot of interesting questions, but I suppose the biggest question is, how are the performers in this movie? Because they do have to carry the bulk of it themselves. It's not a surprise saying that they're really good, but considering the fact that it's really only the two of them for large stretches of this movie, and considering that there are large stretches of this movie where there's not a lot of dialogue, where they have to communicate non-verbally, I think that that really highlights the best acting, because a lot of it is acting that you have to do with your face, your eyes, and stuff like that. And I feel like both of them really killed that shit. A lot of the movie actually revolves around the romance that develops between them over the course of the runtime. Obviously, this came out during Valentine's Day weekend, so you would expect there to be a little bit of romance, but I'm here to tell you that the romance is actually the forefront of the movie. Sure, the movie does answer some of your questions involving the gorge, but most of the movie revolves around the relationship between Levi and Drasa. That's the name of the two characters involved here. I will say, for a lot of people, the movie's probably gonna crumble and fall apart if you're not invested in this romance. Luckily, I think the two leads have really solid chemistry. It's the kind of real chemistry that feels earned, because a lot of their interactions, at least over the first half of the movie, involve them not being like next to each other, not being in front of each other. A lot of the chemistry stems from them having to communicate non-verbally, using signs and using sounds and using binoculars and stuff like that, and a lot of that can lead to some creative romantic tension, and I thought the movie executed that at a pretty high level. Also want to shout out this movie for some pretty great visuals. I love the cinematography in this movie. A lot of muted colors, a lot of darks, a lot of blues, a lot of purples. I think the overhead shots and the wide takes in this one combined with the color palette to make the movie feel a lot more apocalyptic. Like, you're not really given a clear sense of where these people are as they're guarding this gorge. So a lot of the shot selection makes the movie feel unsafe. It makes you feel like there's danger and there's mystery around every bend, every corner. There are some pretty solid and well-filmed action sequences, a lot of weird, trippy sci-fi shit, some really interesting creature design. I think the interesting creature design, the sound design, and the way that the film is shot, I feel like all of that adds to the action sequences. It makes it feel a lot more intense. So in the end, you have a romance movie that also has a little bit of sci-fi action flavor to it. I feel like for the most part, it's a pretty entertaining watch. Also, shout out to Anya Taylor-Joy. It's still Black History Month, so I can't comment on how absolutely drop-dead gorgeous she is, but know that if this were March 1st, that's probably one of the first things I would say. Now, like I said, this movie has an interesting premise. It has an interesting setup. The problem is the setup and the premise kind of takes a little bit to get the movie going. This movie does feel very slow and clunky to start. Like, so they have to set up the characters, they have to set up the different baggage that they're dealing with. And there's a lot of exposition to kind of explain certain things to you before you get to the actual meat and potatoes of the story, and that can make the first 20 to 25-ish minutes of this movie feel a little bit slower than it needs to be. I would actually say a bigger problem with this movie is how unfocused and splintered the narrative is, and how that kind of takes away from the movie as a whole. The mystery and the intrigue of the world building surrounding the gorge, it feels like something that's in the background, and unfortunately it's not really focused on that much during the movie. This is kind of a problem, because even though the romance is well done, the gorge feels like the most interesting thing about the movie, and so you're kind of just waiting the whole movie for answers, and some of those answers are provided and some of them are very unsatisfying. When you get to the reveal of everything, it's hard not to feel a little bit anticlimactic about where things ended up. Also, there are some antagonists that are set up in this movie, and they're very poorly set up, and they're not really focused on that much. So when they enter the fray sometime during the third act of the movie, they feel a little bit tacked on, in my opinion. Sigourney Weaver is in this movie, and she sets up as an antagonist for the two main characters. Believe me when I say that Sigourney Weaver is completely wasted. Like, Like, she's in this movie for like 5 minutes, if that, and they don't really do anything with her character. So it's just hard to get over the feeling that the end of this movie feels really anticlimactic. And unfortunately, like I've said multiple times, if you don't care about this romance, you're probably gonna find this movie boring. I didn't find this movie boring. I enjoyed it to a certain extent. I'm gonna leave this one in the Daily Planet. Pretty solid watch, now streaming on Apple TV+. Guys, tell me, did you see the movie? What did you think about it? Give me your thoughts on it in the comment section below. Please like and subscribe to the Superfan Show, and if you like what you see, tell me how you feel, and stay tuned to hear more from the Man of Steel. Peace.